Welcome back to another episode of the Eek of the Week. I'm your host, Albert Einstein, but you can call me Allie with an OWL. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode. This is episode 99, so the next one I do is going to be the big 100. And do I still have a plan for that? Absolutely not. I'm probably just going to wing it like I do every single episode. Tonight, I wanted to get into, this is another dark files, so before I get into anything, this is going to be gory. It's going to be, we're touching on some of the world's oldest, not oldest in age, but like oldest, I mean like, they were committing crimes way back when, some of the oldest serial killers in the world. So this is going to be a disturbing and triggering topic. If this is maybe not for you, give this one a skip. And there are some hello. There are some more PG rated episodes down below. They're going to be pretty far back in there because those were pretty much in the beginning when I was doing more PG stuff. But yeah, there's some down there for you. But yes, we are talking about serial killers and all the depraved things that humans have done to other humans. And that can get pretty gory. And I do set the AI bot prompt. I do set it to R rated, just because as y'all know, I'm a sucker for anything that's cringy, makes your skin crawl. Any of the horror stories, the spooky, scary stuff, love it. Anything else that I need to? Oh, I took a pretty long break there from doing episodes for a while to take care of my mentals, and I hope everybody else does that from time to time. Have to take care of your head there. Just like I don't go to the gym, but just like people go to the gym to take care of their bodies, you have to take care of your mind as well. If there are hotlines out there, if you feel like you have absolutely no one in this world to talk to, there are people out there that are ready and waiting for your call. And there are obviously, I could go on a whole rant about mental health and how important it is to keep your brain and your emotions and your mentals in check. And if not in check, then at least, you're aware of where you're at, so things don't, get out of control and end up spiraling. There's it's not sponsored or anything because this podcast ain't sponsored yet. And yes, I am speaking that into existence. Yet we will be sponsored one day. There's sites like BetterHelp or ZocDoc or something like that, where you can look up doctors in your area, psychiatrists, therapists, counselors, what have you, that are probably most likely accept your insurance, and you can afford to go see somebody and talk to them about what's going on in your brain. I cannot say enough how important it is to keep your mental health, at least aware of your own mental health. And you don't have to be thriving. You don't have to be, Susie Sunshine all the time, because that's not how life works. There's ups and downs. Life is a roller coaster. At least now I know, like, having been to therapy for years, and I'm going back here soon, because I could feel myself slipping into old habits, and it's not healthy for me. So, highly recommend keeping that brain in check. It's a very powerful thing. Okay, I'm trying to get myself set up here. Do we have a blurb? Y'all know what the blurb is by now. I can't believe we're at 99 episodes. And as I'm kind of rambling about mental health in the background, I've got how your computer, you've got your programs up in the forefront, right? Like what I'm looking at, I've got the AI bot, I've got the not streaming, but the Spotify recording studio thing right there. I've got Discord over here. I've got another thing over here. Really, it's Vessel from Sleep Token is right here. I'm obsessed with that band, you guys. 16 lane highway. Let's see. Let me back it up a little bit. Oh, the blurb. So sometimes there's a blurb before these AI generated stories, but this one doesn't seem to have one because I was pretty precise with the prompt that I gave it this time. What else did I pick? Oh, 99 episodes. I cannot believe we're at 99 episodes, and I've had a lot of fun doing these. And if you've been having a lot of fun too, consider following and sharing us with your friends, because like I said, I'm having a lot of fun doing this, and I hope you're having a lot of fun listening along. I feel like I'm going a little fast tonight, but that's because I've just come out of, how you go downhill on a roller coaster. I've just come out, I'm on the upswing. So anyway, if you're enjoying this, please consider liking, sharing, follow along. I'm about to do 100 episodes of these, and I'm excited about it. Even if the 100th one isn't spectacular or anything big, I might do an update on my Chantal episode, because that was my longest episode so far, because I can go on and on about that cow. I might do that. I might see if I can get a couple buddies to join me on a script. If not, if I can't get them to do that, because it's hard to coordinate schedules, you know. And if we do it late at night, then it's not ideal. But anyway, something might be coming for the 100th episode. But in the meantime, let's get into this. This is, make sure I'm situated here. I took Tucker, he's sitting right here. I took him to the groomer today. Again, rambling down a 16-lane highway, and you never know when I will change lanes. Took him to the groomer today, and sometimes the groomers don't like to cut Pomeranians like really short because they could potentially have an issue with their coats regrowing, because it's like a triple coat. So they don't like to cut Pomeranians too short, but it's obviously summertime in the South, so it's very hot and humid, and he just struggles in the heat because, I don't know if anybody knew this, but Pomeranians are cousins to Siberian Huskies and that, like Malamutes and stuff like that. They're all in the same family, so they're meant for cold weather. He thrives in snow and not the heat. So I do like to give him his summer coat once the heat stays consistent. And there's only a couple girls up there that will do it the way that I like it. And this girl today, she did a really good job, because he's up against my feet. I can feel him. He's super soft. He's like a stuffed animal. I don't know if you'll be able to see him in the background. Normally he'll go like, behind, I can't see this portion of like my frame here because it only gives me like just me, on my monitor here. But normally you'll see him walk, and I've replayed some of these episodes, and I've seen him, like, he'll be over here and he'll just be laying, and I didn't even realize he was behind me. But he'll go and tuck himself under the bed on this side over here. And you'll sometimes, I've seen this too, where I've replayed some of the old episodes and you can see his bushy tail sticking out. Anyway, let's get into this. I have rambled enough, but it's because I've missed doing this. I think that's why I'm rambling, because I could look at the dates, and I might update you later on, but it's been a while since I've done an episode. But yes, I hope everybody else out there is doing well. I hope y'all are enjoying your summer wherever you are, or if you're in the southern hemisphere, your winter. All right, this is... Okay, I had a whole ass coughing fit there. That was my throat being like, wet your whistle. All right, let's get into this. The Dark Files. Blood Before History. The world's first serial killers. Again, there's no blurb with this one. Before Ted Bundy, before Jack the Ripper, before the term serial killer even existed, there were monsters. Men born of royalty and paupers alike. They didn't stalk dark alleyways with ski masks. They walked among emperors, led armies, and ruled kingdoms. History's first serial killers didn't just kill. They bathed in blood. They turned murder into ritual. And in the shadows of early civilization, their crimes often went unchecked, even celebrated. This is The Dark Files. Tonight's report, Blood Before History, the world's first serial killers. Brace yourself. Let's start in China, 144 BCE, with the man widely recognized as the first recorded serial killer in human history. Y'all are going to have to forgive me for pronouncing any of these names, especially the Chinese ones, the Indian ones, all of these Chinese words. Please forgive the mispronunciation. It's going to happen. Lu Pengli was no commoner. He was royalty, the nephew of Emperor Jing of Han. But power doesn't make monsters. Choice does. At age 29, Lu Pengli started sneaking out at night with a pack of slaves and lowlifes. Their goal? Slaughter. For sport. He would roam the countryside, abducting random villagers, torturing them in unspeakable ways, flaying them alive, burning them over slow fires, just to watch them scream. He left their mutilated bodies in ditches and rice paddies, often dismembered, their faces gouged out. Dozens of victims, possibly hundreds. Local officials knew, but no one dared to speak. He was blood, royal blood. Eventually, public outrage forced Emperor Jing's hand. But did Lu Pengli pay with his life? No. He was exiled, not executed. He lived, and probably killed again. Travel west with me now to Rome, 1st century CE. A woman named Locusta of Gaul was one of the empire's most feared and prized assets. A professional poisoner, the original Black Widow. Ooh, these names are they're gonna be brutal. Empress Agrippina the Younger commissioned her to poison her own husband, Emperor Claudius, to make way for her son, Nero. Ever heard of him? Locusta delivered, but she didn't stop there. Under Nero's rule, she became a state-sanctioned killer. She tested poisons on slaves and prisoners, slowly, methodically, refining her craft. One of her victims was Britannicus, the rightful heir to the throne, murdered at age 13. He died gasping and convulsing at a public banquet while Locusta observed, not horrified, but fascinated. Nero rewarded her with land, wealth, and even students. She taught them how to kill silently, efficiently, one drop at a time. Her downfall came when Nero fell. Locusta was arrested and executed, but not cleanly. Historical accounts say she was raped by wild animals in the arena before being torn apart. Irony, it seems, has sharp teeth. Let's go even darker. Ooh, this is a French name. It's not Gillis. It's Gilles de Rais. I don't know. I can't. We'll call him Gil. 15th century France. A nobleman, a knight, a war hero who fought beside Joan of Arc. He was also a child killer of the most unspeakable kind. Between 1432 and 1440, de Rais lured impoverished boys, usually aged 7 to 12, into his castles. He'd promised them food, money, or work. What they got was pure sadistic hell. First, he'd strip them naked and admire their bodies. Then came the torture. Flogging, cutting. There's going to be a lot of cuts of me coughing. Burning and sexual violation. He made his servants hold them down while he mutilated them. Some were decapitated mid-scream. Others were strangled while he masturbated over their bodies. He confessed in horrifying detail to murdering between 80 and 200 children. Some historians think the number was higher. He was hanged and burned in 1440, but it took an act of God and overwhelmingly public fury to put him down. Until then, the killings continued uninterrupted. Now, cross into India, 18th to 19th century. Meet the Thuggee cult, a roaming brotherhood of ritualistic murderers who worshipped Kali, the Hindu goddess of death. This wasn't one man. It was a network, thousands strong. They'd pose as travelers, merchants, or holy men. Then, once they gained trust, they strangled their victims with a yellow scarf called a rumal. Clean, silent, surgical. They believed each kill pleased their goddess. But they weren't just fanatics. They were efficient. But by some estimates, the Thuggee killed over 2 million people across centuries. Their most notorious leader, Behram, I think, again, mispronunciations. A man believed to have murdered more than 900 people with his own hands. He used the rumal like an artist uses a brush, tightening it around the throat, snapping the neck at just the right angle. He confessed to being present at 931 killings. When the British colonial authorities finally cracked down, it took decades to stamp them out. And even then, fragments of the cult persisted in secret. But don't think serial murder was the domain of men only. Let's return to Hungary, late 1500s. Countess Elizabeth Bathory, the Blood Countess. Wealthy, beautiful, aristocratic, and absolutely deranged. She lured peasant girls to her castle with promises of work. Then she tortured them with devices of her own creation. Hot irons, needles, mutilation. She bit off flesh, ripped mouths open with hooks, and yes, she bathed in their blood. Over 600 girls are rumored to have died at her hands. She believed their blood preserved her youth. A proto-vampire. She turned her castle into a private torture chamber. When caught, her noble status spared her from execution. Instead, she was bricked up inside her own castle, walled in, alive. She died years later, alone in her blood-stained tomb. Then there's Hua Bin, a lesser-known name, but a killer worth remembering. A eunuch in ancient China during the Tang Dynasty. He used his status within the royal court to access victims. He dismembered slaves, experimented with poisons, and collected their severed parts as trophies. Oh Lord, am I recording? Yes, I am. This is all over the place. Really good 99th episode. Love it. I do. I joke. He believed human organs held mystical powers. He ground them into powder, drank them with wine. He claimed it made him immortal. Of course, he died like the rest of us, but not before decorating his home with the skulls of those he had killed. These killers didn't operate in the shadows. Many thrived in the open. Royalty, warriors, priests. Society often protected them, praised them, or simply ignored them. Serial murder isn't new. It's older than our gods, older than our laws. It lives in the marrow of civilization, the impulse to destroy, to dominate, to devour. We've simply given it new names. Now I went ahead and did a sequel to this, so I'm just going to tack it onto this episode. They called it the Dark Ages, but what they didn't tell you is how dark things really got. We're in Europe. Europe's medieval landscape wasn't just plagued by famine, war, and pestilence. It was crawling with predators. Not wolves, but men. Tonight on The Dark Files, we descend into the crypts of medieval Europe to uncover the continent's forgotten serial killers. The human beasts who bathed in blood centuries before DNA, before profiling, before prisons. This is Blood Before History, Europe's medieval monsters. We already read about this French guy. See, I don't vet these before. I should have vetted these. This is Gil de Rais. Read about this guy. Oh, it's got some more detail. Let's read about him again. We start in 15th century France, a man whose depravity defies imagination. Gil de Rais. I don't know French. Yes, we touched on him before. Okay, AI bot got me. Yes, we touched on him before, but trust me, we didn't go deep enough. A decorated knight, a companion to Joan of Arc, a man praised in court and feared in secret. After retiring from the battlefield, de Rais, I swear I'm not saying that right. A delay? I'm not pronouncing it like that. Turned his castles into charnel? What is up with the... I can English good, I promise. He built special torture rooms beneath his manors. Windowless, soundproof. Here he unleashed his desires on peasant boys, lured in by servants. He began by dressing them in fine clothes, calling them angels. Then came the games. He tied them down, sometimes upright, sometimes splayed across benches. He'd stroke their hair, whisper sweetly, then drive daggers into their necks, slowly twisting. Sometimes he strangled them during masturbation. Other times he'd sodomize them post-mortem. One servant testified that de Rais laughed hardest when the children begged for their mothers. He doused their bodies in perfume afterward to mask the stench. He buried them in castle walls or burned them in fireplaces. His crimes went on for nearly a decade. The estimated death toll? Over 140 children. Some believe the number exceeds 300. When the church finally caught up, they didn't hesitate. He was excommunicated, then executed, hanged, and burned. But he didn't die like a monster. Witnesses say he repented, wept, and asked for prayers, a coward to the end. Let's move north. Germany, late 1500s. Peter Stump, or the Werewolf of Bedburg. A farmer, a father, a pillar of the town, also a cannibal, a serial killer, and, according to court documents, a self-proclaimed werewolf. Stump admitted under torture to practicing black magic since age 12. He claimed the devil gave him a magical wolf belt that transformed him into a beast. That beast went on to slaughter at least 14 children, 2 pregnant women, and his own son. He strangled, dismembered, and ate fetuses straight from the womb. He murdered his son, sliced off the head, and drank the blood like wine. He confessed to incest with his daughter, with a demon he believed to be his mistress. When the public learned of his crimes, they didn't settle for a simple hanging. His execution was medieval brutality incarnate. His flesh was torn with red-hot pincers, his limbs were broken with the wheel, his bones were shattered like firewood. He was beheaded, and his body burned. His daughter, also accused, was flayed and burned beside him. Crazy. Let's take a turn into Scotland, 14th century, and meet a legend. Shawnee Bean. Some say he never existed. Others swear his cave still reeks of death. Shawnee and his wife fled society and hid in the coastal caves of Benane Head. Again, I'm probably mispronouncing that. There they bred, and I mean that literally. Over 25 years, they had 14 children and 32 grandchildren, all through incest. This family grew into a clan of 48 cannibalistic killers. Their method? They ambushed travelers along the coast, dragged them into the cave, butchered them, and ate their flesh raw. What they didn't eat, they pickled. They tossed several limbs into the sea. Locals were baffled by the disappearances until body parts started washing ashore. When King James VI led a manhunt, his soldiers discovered a grotesque scene. Human limbs hanging like cured meats, bones piled high, disemboweled corpses strung upside down. All 48 clan members were captured. The men were dismembered alive. Hands, feet, genitals hacked off and left to bleed. The women and children were burned alive the next day. Whether Shawnee Bean was real or a cautionary tale, does it really matter? Now let's travel to Bohemia, present-day Czech Republic. The year 1300s. The killer, Agnes the Black Nun. Ooh. She was a nun by title only. Agnes ran an orphanage inside a rural convent, but instead of sanctuary, it was a tomb. She slowly poisoned the children in her care, using a mix of wolfsbane, belladonna, and deadly nightshade, calling it medicine. When they began to convulse and vomit blood, she'd smile. She claimed their suffering purified their souls. She presented some of the corpses, even dried their skin to use as bookbinding for her private texts. She was obsessed with martyrdom, convinced that dying at her hand had sent the children to heaven. A local priest discovered the truth when he opened a locked crypt and found over 60 child corpses, some mutilated, some missing organs, and some sewn into tapestries. Agnes was sentenced to death by burning. She sang hymns as the flames rose. Witnesses say she never screamed. Oh, we covered this one too. We can't leave out Elizabeth Bathory, the Blood Countess. Yes, we've mentioned her before, but the full horror deserves revisiting. Over 650 girls. Her favorite torture? Driving needles beneath fingernails, then tearing them out. Biting off flesh from their faces. Pouring scalding wax into open wounds. Freezing them to death, naked, doused in water, left outside in winter. Servants claimed she bathed in virgin blood to preserve her youth. Some reports say she drank it. Eyewitnesses found blood trails leaking from under doors. Girls chained to walls. others buried half alive. She was protected by nobility for years. When she was finally caught, 4 of her servants were executed, tongues torn out and bodies burned. Bathory was sealed into a bricked-off room in her castle with no windows, just a slit for food. She died 4 years later, alone, unrepentant. Let's end in Italy, Renaissance period. Giovanna Bonanno, or the Vinegar Witch, she wasn't just a serial killer, she was a serial killer for hire. Women came to her for help with abusive husbands. She offered a solution, a colorless, odorless vinegar. A few drops in soup and the man would grow ill, slowly, painfully, vomiting, diarrhea, organ failure. But it took weeks, sometimes months. She relished the process. She called her poison aceto della morte, or vinegar of death. Authorities, how can I pronounce something Italian anyway? Authorities caught on when 5 men in one town died the same way. She confessed to killing at least a dozen, possibly many more. She was hanged in public. Legends say she smiled as the rope was placed around her neck. The Dark Ages weren't just dark in name. They were filled with shadows. And in those shadows lived predators, free to kill without consequence, sanctioned by faith, shielded by power, feared into silence. Serial murder didn't start with modern man. It began in candlelit castles, blood-soaked caves, and behind convent walls. We like to think we've evolved, that we've left such savagery behind. But these stories, buried in dust, scrawled in ancient ink, whisper a different truth. The darkness never left. It just learned to hide. You've been listening to The Dark Files. This episode, Blood Before History, Europe's Medieval Monsters. Until next time, keep your eyes on the shadows. They're watching you. Thank you so much for joining in, and we'll catch you in the next one.